Okay, so I want to talk a bit about the Youth Peace Ambassadors, the Eubios Institute, and the American University of Sovereign Nations. My name is Darryl Mason. I'm the president of the American University of Sovereign Nations and director of Eubios Ethics Institute. And just the controller. So, what future do we want? Some of you asked about the fortune telling, thinking about the future. But if you remember the main message of Anania's presentation, it was, you make your future by cultivating good habits for leadership. Okay? So, although we have a destiny, we create our destiny as well, don't we? Yes. So, these children are looking for the future. The future is there. It looks like they're looking at the Filipino flag. Is that the future? The adults, they gave up. Now, one of the challenges for our educational system is children, as described in the last presentation, have dreams, they draw, they paint, they have no inhibition. Our education system, however, leads us to memorizing for examinations, passing exams, reaching somebody else's goals and expectations. So this is a great challenge, but by the time we're in the 20s or 30s, we have lost much of our dream. We're just thinking, maybe I'll secure enough money for a family, enough for other people. So this is we have to think about our future, and we have to be involved in shaping our future. We need to have good batteries in the remote control. How do I deal with diversity? One way is to build a wall. This is a great wall of China. We don't want to talk to people. We don't want to deal with other ethnic groups or cultures. We build a wall. This is another way to deal with diversity. A meeting house. A Maori meeting house. We have a meeting of our community. The young and the old together. We discuss. We make a consensus. And we make agreement. This is an interesting method, actually somewhat different to some of the methods that you may be learning for running a ship or running an organization. Sometimes you have a top-down organization, but at some point we do have meetings and dialogue because together we can make better decisions than on our own. Another way to deal with diversity is to build bridges. We decide between other people or communities, we want to try and have cultural dialogue. We want to understand people. A person born on Sunday may want to communicate to a person born on Thursday. They may have different personalities, they may complement each other, but they also may have some conflict. Different ways of personality testing also, different personality types. But we want to deal with these. And different cultures. So our work in cross-cultural bioethics and Youth Peace Ambassadors is to look at cross-cultures and between cultures and build bridges. Sometimes people like to burn bridges, but if you burn the bridge, you cannot cross. So try always never to burn the bridges. Okay? It's a good lesson. If you burn all your bridges, you'll have no more friends. This is a picture from Hiroshima, the first use of atomic bomb in war, 6th of August 1945. This is a picture. These are two pictures from Hiroshima. What are they? This one is mushroom cloud. This one is what? What is it? Anybody know? This is a concrete steps on the bank, the first bank of Japan. And this is a shadow. This person, all that's left after this is a shadow. No ash, nothing. Shadow. So, in the time of the nuclear weapons, we understand that we can no longer have a culture of war. We must have a culture of peace. Because now, despite for Cold War, which followed this, and some say perhaps we're going back into a rather chilly war at the moment. We thought the Cold War ended in 1989. Hallelujah. We were very happy. You were not yet born. But the Cold War is sort of on and off still. A little bit cold at the moment. But we understand, and still both sides understands, there's no option. There's no nuclear option for the human race. We have no survival option in that. We have to work for peace. And people work for peace. Mahatma Gandhi, you've heard of Mahatma Gandhi? Love is the strongest force the world possesses, and yet it's the humblest imaginable. The more efficient the force is, the more silent and subtle it is. Love is the subtlest force in the world. He was talking about love, which was a concern of some of the young men at the back of the room. That love for social change. But also remember, love is a subtle force. It works at the personal and the social level. Okay? And he could transform Asia into a decolonized continent. There were only 3 countries in the world that were not colonized. Can you think of them? Thailand. Number 2. Japan and Nepal. So Nepal, Japan and Thailand. Now, their strategies were somewhat different. Okay, their strategies. And yesterday we had a wonderful lecture from Admiral Santos. Some of you were here. If you're not here, you can go to the YouTube, to the American University of Sovereign Nations YouTube site. Please click like, please subscribe. There's 100 lectures like this. Admiral Santos' lecture yesterday on diplomacy and the oceans and peace was really interesting. But the way to survive using diplomacy. Thailand used to be bigger. Siam used to be a bigger country. The British came, the French came. The King of Thailand, very clever. He decided, okay, we give some peace towards Cambodia to the French. Some peace to Laos to the French. Just don't fight a war, we give you land. He gave the land to the west, to the English, who occupied Burma or Myanmar, and the land at the bottom to Malaysia, occupied by the English. So by giving land, negotiating, no war. Japan is an island, rather developed island, but island and far enough away to be strong enough. Nepal is surrounded by mountains, so cold, quite tough to go there, also protected by its natural environment and of course the people. Unfortunately, some other countries, easygoing, Philippines, easygoing people, easygoing to be colonized. So before you knew it, you were colonized, and it took a long time to become independent again. So, different ways of relationship to people. Hopefully now we all believe in love and can express freedom. I need some help because this is not working. Maybe working. In the United Nations, we talk about human security. Human security is the freedom from several things. The freedom from fear, freedom from want, freedom to live in dignity, freedom from hazard impacts. We were talking this morning the freedom from disasters. The group at Pico University had done workshops to live the freedom from hazard impacts. Are you free of all these things? Anybody afraid? Are you afraid of me? No. Are you afraid of karma? No. The cards, they talk to you. Are you have freedom from want? Do you all have food to eat? In the academy you do, but not everyone in the country. Freedom to live in dignity. You live in dignity. Hopefully there's no harassment of people, and hopefully you're safe and can express yourself safely and happily. It is a right. But some people in our country, in every country, cannot live in dignity. So these are freedoms, and we call this human security. This is a battleship. Battleship diplomacy. Might is right. Have you heard this expression? Is it correct? Is it correct? There are two ways to answer that question, aren't there? In history, it is correct. Historically, colonization through might dominated most of the world. Is it ethically right? No. Okay. You are answering ethically because you're very ethical. Okay. But we need to find different forms. So actually Gandhi said, love is the strongest force we know. So actually love is might. But it does it by non-violence. The spirit of love is stronger. But, well, ships are very beautiful, aren't they? Very interesting, but sadly much of their design has been for war. Opposite the USS Iowa in Long Beach Harbor is a container terminal. Long Beach, the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And so I think when in the future you go sailing into Long Beach or Los Angeles port, which you will, as you come in, on the left you see the Iowa, on the right you see the container terminal, and hopefully you won't crash your boat into something else. They will use containers, and the globalization of industry transfers jobs around the world. Sometimes this is good, sometimes also there are negative things. I mentioned here exploitation of cheap and low-wage workers. This is an ethical issue of maritime trade, isn't it? That we open up trade between countries, cultural ambassadors, but we know that some industries are exploiting low-paid workers with low environmental standards in some country, and we have to ship their goods to the rich country where they're going to pay a high price for it, and are exploiting the world. So for international standards, we hope we follow that. For example, children produced from child labor. I mean, goods produced from child labor. Goods produced from child labor or from torture or slavery exist in the world. We might have international codes, including the maritime industry, not to be involved in the distribution of such goods. CITES. CITES is the Convention on the Trade in Endangered Species. So we might find in our container ivory tusks. So again, that's forbidden. So as an officer in the future, you will know not to transport ivory, to find detection methods to detect. And even inadvertently, you might have containers full of people, human trafficking. Yeah? So human trafficking is very sad, but normally it's not on boats in a container. Usually the people put on containers on a truck. Okay? But the container then is a very great invention for trade that sometimes misused. The Youth Peace Ambassadors workshops we've had in several different countries. We started in Hiroshima, and the first one was held in Hiroshima in 2010. Okay? We had 40 participants. We made action plans, 17 action plans. The second group is in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. Has anybody been to Cambodia? Can you tell me what was a big problem in Cambodia? The Khmer Rouge. Pol Pot. The Khmer Rouge executed 1/4 to 1/3 of the citizens of the country before you were born. Most of you. Some of us were alive and witnessed it. So this was a great problem. In the end, Cambodia was liberated by Vietnam in 1979. The Europeans ignored it. So this was an interesting case because we had a relatively poor country liberating its neighbor from a genocidal regime. Of course, there are always politics involved and the reasons for this. Cambodians today are very active and recovered. This is in Penang. Penang is in the Straits of Malacca. Anybody know of the Straits of Malacca? Many ships pass through the Straits of Malacca. For hundreds of years, it's been a center of intercultural dialogue, interreligious dialogue, and also colonial flights. Pointing in every direction. Next, Youth Peace Ambassadors in Hiroshima. And this photograph is actually taken in a place called Itajima. Does anybody in this room know where Itajima is? Please tell me. Itajima. It is the Dartmouth of Japan. Dartmouth is a naval training academy in London, in England. So Itajima was a naval training base. Now you're in the merchant sea fleet, but in Itajima they have a very interesting academy, and they have a shrine where they pay respect to two great maritime admirals. You may find it surprising if you've ever heard of Lord Nelson. Anybody heard of Nelson? Battle of Trafalgar? Nelson was a famous English admiral, and his hair is in the shrine in Itajima. And the second person shrine they worship is Admiral Togo. Admiral Togo in 1904 was the first Asian admiral to defeat a European at war in the Japan-Russian war. So still today they worship and pray to get wisdom from these great admirals. And irrespective of nation, because Nelson is English, Togo is Japanese, but they're thinking of the strategies. So they learn from different peoples. And of course, we're trying to make a peace. In London, Olympic truce. At the time of the Olympic Games, we're meant to have a truce, not to fight war. Sadly, although nations declare the Olympic truce every Olympics, so from the period of the General Olympics to the end of the Paralympics, countries declare they will fight no war. But what happens? They still continue to fight war. It seems to have little meaning. Very sad. Okay? The same happened this year in Brazil. Wars continue. Syria just gets worse and worse, and so on. Okay? This is in a peace park in Thailand. If any of you wish to come and plant a tree or learn about medicinal plants and traditional knowledge and like weeding the jungle, this is a peace jungle. Sorry, a peace park, I have to say. Trees grow very well in Thailand, like in the Philippines. But in the name of peace, we try to reflect. So if you wish to come, please come to one of our trainings. We have it every year in Thailand. In Nepal, in the Himalayas, we had a meeting in 2014. So it's the 7th. The 8th is in Arizona. This is cotton growing in Native American land in Phoenix. This is where we are. Indonesia in volcano, and you may find it interesting that it's called Samet volcano. Does it sound like close to you? There's one in Java as well. And we're going to there this afternoon at YPA 13. But this is a group from Indonesia, the 10th. This is where we have a university. Is a place called San Carlos Apache Nation. You have a San Carlos in the Philippines, and we have 2 professors from San Carlos here. Right? And tomorrow you can listen to their graduation presentation. They will become graduates, hopefully. But this is the Apache Nation. Have you heard of the Apaches? You might have heard of Apache helicopters. But the Apache are a people. They lived for several thousand years before. They were nomadic. Unfortunately, when the United States was colonized, their nomadic way of life put them at conflict with white settlers who wanted to settle and occupy land. So there were many wars. Geronimo was the most famous Apache leader. At one point, he had almost all the United States cavalry for 7 years looking for him. Eventually they found him. He was taken away to the other side of the country. But later he was taken to talk, and he talked about the Indian issues and the problems of a reservation system for people who want to be nomadic, and the problem of taking away land, water, education, language, culture. It is not good, and they still have a challenge with the consequences of this. But you can visit many Indian reservations. What we do is we develop action plans. So for example, the action plans here from different people. You can see this action plan here. This Youth Peace Ambassador, Rowena, you just saw her this morning talking about I Can. So the action plan is from Arizona, implemented in the Philippines, it was presented actually also in Thailand, presented here as well, and presented in Indonesia as well. So she's a Youth Peace Ambassador because she developed a plan, she evaluated, she made a budget, she got a team, they worked together, implement, develop a new action plan because even more successful, and so on. So management skills are what we're trying to develop. When we ask people, what is peace? I can ask you, what is peace? Some of you I can ask, what is love? Some of you I can ask, what is your career? But the question for our workshop is what is peace? And we let people decide themselves. You have to choose. So people think, well, for me, peace is poverty eradication. Okay? We cannot have peace until we have poor people. Yesterday, if you were here in the opening, the director from the Department of Science and Technology talked about poverty eradication. How it will challenge communities. We might want to abolish nuclear weapons. We might want to have peace through sports because we love sports. We might want a concert, animal protection, environment. All these things are working for better security and for peace and happiness. So you can find them on the website, whatever your gift is. Now your gifts are much more than just which day of the week you're born on. Your gifts you learn and work together. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, tell us that all peoples have a right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social and cultural development. To ensure that people have the freedom to pursue their development, this is why we do education, empowerment. You choose a career you want, you develop the skills, and you can pursue your social and cultural development. You can pursue your personal life choices yourself. So this is very critical for us. Dialogue and peace and community and ethics is prehistoric, and there are many sources of wisdom. We don't just look at sources of wisdom from French philosophers or from American generals. We look at people from all around, every culture, every work of life, including our dear mother, who may give us consultation, and all sources. We also have another group activity called Looking Beyond Disaster. And we have these in a series of countries, different forums. A similar idea, but the focus is on community rebuilding after disasters. And so the next two will be in Kumamoto, Japan, and in Manipur in India. All of these are places where disasters have occurred. So, if you're interested, AUSN, we offer postgraduate degrees, combination of residential, intensive workshops, and group Skype or group communication. We try to bring together decolonized education. These are, in fact, from one of our workshops in South Africa. In fact, these are Tanzanians, and we're working in different countries in Africa. We have 80 faculty from around the world. One of our newest faculty is Professor Rajiv Arora, who some of you may be receiving his lecture. And you can see, if you missed his lecture yesterday, or the day before yesterday when we arrived, it's on the YouTube channel. You can watch it, along with lectures from many faculty. It's open. You to watch the YouTube channel. If you want to get credit, you should join our programs. We have an MOU with MAP for several years, and Professor Angelica is one of our Board of Governors and our professor. So a bioethics and public health and a PhD as well. And we have the postgraduate certificate in community and peace, which Rowena, Dr. Zolo has taken recently. We have international cooperation agreements with many universities around the world. This is a map. So student people can come and exchange, go and study in London, or go and study in Japan, or Indonesia, or South Africa, wherever you find interesting with our professors there. So the idea of a global university is what we're trying to construct. Our students are from many countries. About 1/4 of our students are indigenous people. That's why the name sovereign nations. But our students come from many places. Many are professionals and they want to develop their skills. So you are very welcome to join us. Do you have any questions or inquiries? Any questions from anybody?